Hello, ample players. Reverend here, and today I'd like to talk about the advantages of ample sound guitars for guitarists. Now, the first reason would be quality. This is the best virtual guitar out there. It's a very flexible instrument. It really can do anything, but it's very quick and easy to use, and I'm going to show you just how quick and easy. If you're thinking about the cost, Ample Sound have a promotion, so check that out. That's going on right now. It means you can own a guitar you might not be able to afford. Ample Sound have sampled a wide variety of expensive classics. There are several acoustic guitars to choose from, including a classical guitar, a Gibson, a Taylor, steel string, with finger, pick, and strum articulations. Electric guitars include a classic Fender, a PRS, a Gibson, hollow body, and there are several basses, including a Fender jazz bass and a precision bass, with finger and pick articulations. You can use the tab file player to advantage, especially if you're working on a cover song. You can change articulations without re-recording the part. You can reorganize a song without playing it again. You can program something that's too difficult or time-consuming for you to play. If you're recording a cover, for example, a tab file probably exists, so there's probably good data you can use there. You have instant double tracking with separate performances for left and right and controllable time differences between those performances. You can instantly transpose the guitar part. You can use a capo. You'll hear the difference, but the MIDI data will not be changed. So let's just take a look at how you would use a part that you've found on the web and load it into the tab player. Imagine I have this. Just a slow cliche blues, and I'm looking for this. This is not here yet. I'm about to put it in. And here's how you would put it in. You open the instrument, go to your tab button here, and that opens this display. You load the tab that you found and hope will be useful, and you load it from wherever you saved it on your system. I'm using this one. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. Here it is. Now, to use it in my project, I simply drag it. And you can see the plus sign there on my cursor. I've already dragged it to here, so I'm not going to do that. And bingo, there you go. Well, for an original song, you're not going to find something on the web that'll just happen to fit. But for blues, there'll be walking bass lines and various rhythm parts. For a cover song, it might be a very complete tab file that you have, so you can use the solo or the rhythm part, whatever. And just to get it away from the bass, which is in the center of the stereo spectrum, and the kick drum and the snare, and possibly a voice, and possibly a solo, I suggest double tracking because it gives you a wider feel and keeps the guitar away from competing frequencies. Down here on the main panel, you simply toggle it on, and this knob here controls the time difference between the performances, this being very tight and this being more loose. I'm going to keep it quite tight, and this is how it sounds on its own. And all together. Now you're ready to put a solo or a voice or whatever. So there's one way you can use the tab file player to advantage. Another way is if I put my cursor in any measure and I use this button, I can convert that measure to a strum pattern. And that means it could come from anywhere. It could come from a piano. It doesn't have to be a guitar part. And what you're doing is grabbing the rhythmic structure. There won't be any notes. There'll be up and down strokes to make a strum pattern. So those are ways you can use the tab file player, especially useful if you're working on a cover song. I'm going to switch files and take a look at some of the other advantages. I don't think this will take a second to load. So in this scenario, I have a song, I have an ample guitar, and I want to go looking for strums. So the first thing I do is open the instrument, go to open the strummer. Once the strummer is open, you have to make sure it is turned on. I'm just going to make sure of my settings over here. Okay, so the strummer is turned on, and just to recap quickly the controls here. On this row, you have strum time, which controls the time the pick takes to cross the strings. If you have a very slow song, you might want to change that. The degree of muting here and the stroke volume. Down on this bottom row, there are 3 different ways to humanize your performance. But most likely, you'll just want to get into it and get something going immediately. So you would turn to the chord section. This is the chord section right here. You can create any chord you like by simply clicking the notes on and off on this fretboard diagram. Now, chances are you will be choosing from a chord name and then a type. I've just chosen major here. And then on the third, here it is, the third button here gives you 3 different ways to play it on the neck. So you can play it in the first position, second position, or third position. I'm going to use the first here. And the chords I've set up are a D, an A, C, and a G. That's all I'm going to use. There are 2 banks of chords with 12 in each. See, there's 2 banks here, so 24 chord slots altogether. You can transpose the entire bank up or down with this button here. You can load the whole chord bank from, if you have a particular song and you've saved a particular set of chords, you can save them and recall them. So this is the chord section. Here is the strum pattern section, and when you open it up, it starts with a bank of 8 strum patterns. And you can see I'm displaying number 2 because that button's lit up there. There's information about it. It's part of the default. The author is ample sound. The genre is pop. Time signature is 4/4. The resolution value is here, and the original tempo the strum was recorded at. Now I'm synced to my host. I'm playing at slightly slower than the original recording time. You audition the pattern by pressing here. You can go to the next pattern or the previous. You can choose from what looks like squillions of preset strums. You can also organize them by column heading to make it easier for you to find what you're looking for. If you don't like anything you've heard or you want to make your own, you can clear the grid and click your own strums into this grid. And there's a guide on the left. Downstroke, downstroke, up, mute. So varying degrees of muting, up and down strokes for both. You can go below the line, but below the line is for single notes only. Something like, yes, here we go, this one. Right, so that below the line is for single notes only. I like pattern 2 for my song. I'm just going to... Okay, let's say I want to make a change. I want to take this one and make it sort of a muted hit. Okay, I don't like that. I just put it back. And I can control the velocity by simply dragging. You see the color change? And you can also see the velocity change up here when I've moused over and I'm changing it. And you can also see at a glance from the color. Swing is down here, resolution value or quantize. Time signature changed here. So let's say I've auditioned my patterns, and I've decided on this one. I've set up my chords in bank 1. This is my D, my A, C, and G. And I want to use this pattern. So all I have to do is drag it into my host. I've already dragged it, and here it is. And if you look at the tooltip, the end of the tooltip here, you'll see C-sharp 3. Well, C-sharp 3 is the note that makes the pattern play. And as long as this is the C-sharp 3 up here, as long as this plays, the pattern will keep on repeating. The chords are changed with these notes here. Where do they come from? They come from the tooltip here. So you can see my D is a C1, C-sharp 1 for the next chord, D1 for the next chord, and so on. So there it is, C, C-sharp 1, D1, and these notes are used to trigger the chord changes. But there's one here, this one on the bottom, very bottom here. I want to show you that. C0 tells the instrument to play in a sustained mode. And this is a key switch. A key switch is a note off the range of the instrument that can be used for precisely this purpose, to change the mode of the instrument. So we're playing in sustained mode, chord change, that's the initial chord, changes here, changes there, and so on. So now I have my chords. I've thrown them in, having auditioned the parts. I've dragged the pattern into the song. Okay, now I suddenly have an idea. What if I played this entire strum, but muted in a cheeky, sexy way? Well, if I was playing it with a real guitar, I'd literally have to play it again. Not so with the amp guitar. You can simply copy from here to there. And remember that C0? I've changed it here to D0, which means play me muted. So this is what it sounds like muted. I'm going to turn off everything else. Now that might be great for a middle 8, a change of mood, for an intro, for example. And now that I've got something cheeky and sexy and muted, I can do something different with the bass here. Great, but now I've had another idea. To make the bass come through a little better, give me a wider thing, let's put the double tracking on. So back to my instrument, back to the main panel, toggle it on. In my case, I like to keep the performance tight, so I'm going to keep that knob at the minimum and play that. Now the separation is quite obvious. The bass is definitely in the middle in a space of its own. Guitars, separate performances, are out wide, and quite frankly, I couldn't play it better than that. Check this out in isolation. This will fool a guitarist. And there is no sweetening on this whatsoever. These are just how these guitars sound out of the box. No compression, no reverb, no EQ, no chorusing. But I've had another idea. And this is what I was talking about earlier, that new ideas can come from the capability of the instrument. So I've got my sexy part with my different bass. But what if I choose to use this as an intro? I go from here, just the guitar, bring the bass in at this point, and then come back to everything. Just bring the drums in, go back to my sustained bass notes, and go back to sustained mode by changing this little guy here. So he goes from D0 back to C0. Pretty easy. So let me go back to here and play it as it is now. Okay, so these are the various ways and advantages that you can use an ample guitar. You can use the tab file player to advantage, especially if you're recording a cover song, because there's probably a tab file out there. You can drag and drop progressions into the project in a matter of minutes. Now you can change the chords, add chords, change a major to a seventh. For example, I would go back in here to my strummer, and my first chord, I want it to be a seventh instead. Now that same trigger, C1, will start the ball rolling for me. And there it is, a D7. So I can change a chord after the song has been made. I can switch measures around, because changing the MIDI is not the same as changing the audio. If you cut into the audio, you may have glitches and artifacts, and changing the MIDI is going to be precisely on time. So you can add chords, change progressions, change the strum. You can change the strum for variety. And to do that, you would simply drag the new strum into your project as shown. You can change, you can restructure your song without playing anything again. For example, if I want to use this as my intro, or these two, I can get rid of all this, restructure the song, and I haven't had to play anything else again. So those are the advantages, the flexibility, being able to do what you want to do afterwards and not have to play anything again. Even if you used it as a composing tool, it would be well worth it just for the speed and simplicity. But the quality is good enough to fool guitarists. So that's my little pitch. That's all from me. I'm going to leave you with my little masterpiece. Thanks for watching.